Hey, what's up? This is Jeff with Final Boss Editing. So today is actually going to be a writing day based off edits, mostly because Twitch helps keep me on track and keep me focused and from getting distracted. So it's a great way to get a lot of writing done because people are ensuring that you're writing and not, surfing Facebook or whatever. So, today I'm gonna be working through. Can you guys hear me all right? Let me see here. If my audio is in the right place. Okay. Well, maybe I'll just like speak into the mic or something like that. Anyways, so is it coming from here? That's weird. Well, big gulps, huh? Let me just make sure my microphone is coming from the right place. Uh, uh, is that working now? Test. Whatever. I just won't mess with it. Anyways, as long as it's generally audible, I won't complain. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on the edits. So feel free to throw any comments or you name it in if you guys have any questions, and we'll go from there. Two sweeping steps. So pretty much what's happening right now is it's a startup murder mystery. So some guy, I think it's still way too long in the beginning. Gross. Some guy is trying to recruit his friend into a startup, but then a murder happens, and that all goes bad. So I think I do want to have, and then, uh, cool. So pretty much I'm rearranging some of the structure right now, but I'm never like, for some reason I just don't have a good feel for this short story, but we'll see what happens. I've been trying to be as like lean as possible, but like I just am putting too much buffer and stuff in, so we'll see. 2,000 words already. Ugh, disgusting. It's way too long. Ugh, that's annoying. Already way too long. Shoot. Well, we'll see. I'll have to do a rewrite probably. Oh well. Okay, older than I see, which makes zero where it eats a grin. Well, someone is happy to see you. Let's see. Oh, hey, Moocher. What's going on, buddy? So this is actually a final boss writing as opposed to editing today. But pretty much what I'm working on is a short story that I had done a while ago, and I'm trying to kind of refresh it and bring it up to speed. Um, so there's a lot of fat in this narrative on what I'm seeing. So it's like a lot of scenes that don't need to be there, stuff like that. So my goal is to try to cut it down as much as possible in this edit. So it's at 9,000 words in its current state. I'm pacing, I think. Let me just see. I'm pacing about 1,000 words less now, but I really want to pull more out. So I want to try to get this to 7 or even 6 because I think it was really fatty. So we'll see. I'll see if I can pull it off. I'm not super sure myself. It's always kind of tricky. Cool. Let me just turn the brightness so I can actually see. Groovy. All right. Let me see like hell around here. So it's like a startup murder mystery. So this person in Found, which is a startup company, ends up murdering someone. Hashtag rage. Like a boss, the Doom guy. I love it. I'm curious to hear if you guys liked the D&D stream, or I guess it's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's a different RPG string. But if you guys liked that, because we can do that again too. It's kind of like it's all different forms of storytelling, and to some varying degree. So I guess it's kind of good in that regard that it's kind of a more improv form, more like scene and stuff. So that's always fun. But if you guys like it, we'll keep them coming. We'll probably do it again next Friday. Let's see here. Okay. Swimming was unaffected. The hum of the projector stood as the only sound of the building. Okay. Oops. Did not want to bold that. Okay. Acknowledging none. No. Do I need all that extra shit? I think. Do I need all this extra stuff? Extra. It's always a cool look, but hardly anyone noticed. No. Oh, I should put on some jams. This is the one time if I'm writing and not editing, I can actually listen to media player. It's much easier to do the music thing. Cool. Well, rock on. If you enjoyed it, we'll keep them coming. So. Alright. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I can put it up on the... Oh, cool. Got the jams going a little bit. Sweet. Okay. Time to see if I can fix this short story and make it actually a short story instead of like a little mini novel. That's the problem with usually first drafts. I find myself always over explaining because like you kind of have this impulse to like make sure that you get it and you don't trust kind of your own writing. So usually the second and third drafts are just pulling out those times where you're like over committing and trying to overtell. All heads turned when found place. Yeah, for some reason my mic is just super quiet today. Maybe I'll just turn my music on mute and then I can just listen to it. Or maybe just like barely going. Almost. Alright, let me know if that's better. I don't know why my levels are so low, but let me see if I can turn my microphone stuff up. Well, we'll see if that works. Hey, what's up, Casey? So today I'm working actually on editing a short story, actually rewriting. So one of my old writing coaches told me the best way to edit was to rewrite. So you don't want to just do spot edits usually. You want to just kind of go over and completely cut some stuff out and then, you know, kind of start from zero. Nice, Moocher! Like a boss. I'll have to check your stuff out. I think I'm following you too. I'm following. Let's see. Alright. I think it's followed. Anyways, well, I will definitely tune in for one of your streams if you are doing it. That's awesome. But yeah, so what I'm doing here is I'm taking an old short story I edited recently on the right here. And, you know, this guy over here. And I'm kind of editing it or rewriting it on the left. So taking those edits, trying to factor them in and make them happen on the left. So we'll see how it goes. I'm really trying to cut this thing down. It was probably a little bit too long on its initial draft. So we'll see what happens. It's always tricky, in my opinion at least. Increasing the whole room, his company. Oops. Oh, nice. That's awesome. TF2 is a pretty fun game. What do you guys think about Overwatch? I know that's the new Dilio. I'm gonna put this down here. I don't know if I have a window open, but I'll put it. Oops. I'll just paste it over here and make sure I follow you. That's awesome. I'm actually really curious to to hear some awesome commentary. That'll be fun. That's kind of its own creative process, right? Like you're kind of improvising, like doing that whole bit. That's awesome. Ah, delicious. Yeah, I'm not gonna. Thankfully, whenever I write instead of edit, I don't have to talk as much, so my throat has a little bit more recovery. But sometimes I just can't resist talking. It's one of my little foibles. It's just being from Texas. You get every Texan's a talker is one thing that I've learned over time. Or many of them are, or many of us. Alright, the crowd burst into applause. Ulrich closed his eyes, soaking it in. From the seat in the back of his room, Swing stood up and wound his way to the executive suites upstairs. Yeah, that's gonna be insane. I'm pretty stoked about Overwatch. I used to love playing TF2, and I still play. I just played it recently. I'm terrible at it, but I do love that game. It is a friggin' fun game, and yeah, I'm curious. I get the sense that Blizzard has been kind of like taking these like really good games and like just kind of like Blizzardizing them. But you know, there's nothing wrong with that. They do make some pretty killer games, and the production value is like unparalleled. Like they put so much money into those things. But yeah, I'm excited to. One of my friends let me play some of the beta for a little bit that he had, and Overwatch is pretty cool. So I'm curious to see it kind of hit the ground running. You know, it hasn't been. And so Bill is the character that the protagonist is trying to recruit. Oh yeah, so good call. Thank you for reminding me to do a summary. So pretty much what this is about is it's a startup murder mystery. So it begins with this guy trying to recruit his friend into a startup. And then some weird stuff starts happening. So he's like recruiting his friend, and then like some weird stuff starts happening, and then there's a murder, and his nerdy accounting friend that he's trying to recruit kind of uses his logic and whatever to solve the mystery. So pretty much what's happened so far is he's kind of gotten in. There's a director of finance named Jacob who's kind of this bolstery guy. He kind of gets in a verbal shouting match with this person Su Ming, who is the fired co-founder. So this person just kind of came back in out of nowhere, and is kind of in town hall, kind of stirring things up a little bit. So he's gonna leave, after Ulrich is the CEO who's making this big speech. I don't know if this is making much sense, but yeah, pretty much startup murder mystery. Yeah. Hey, what up, Bookfish? How's it going? Good to see you, man. So pretty much I was just kind of doing a quick nutshell of this for our good friend Moocher. But this is a startup murder mystery that I'm working on right now. So yeah, pretty much this guy is trying to recruit one of his friends, the I character, protagonist, is trying to recruit his friend Bill to a startup. But while he's recruiting Bill, a murder takes place, and the only person who can solve it is in fact the person that he's trying to recruit, which is Bill. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell. I hope that helps. Let me know if that makes sense, Mooch, or if that was not enough context. Sometimes it's a bit, what's up, y'all? Oh, look at all these cool people. Well, thanks for hanging out, everybody, by the way. This is, I always feel that, the writing is not as, I'm much more of an editor at heart, so me doing writing is always feels a little bit different, but if you guys like it, I won't argue. The engineer seated up front, not ignoring leaned over the bell. Yeah, so Ulrich is kind of this, this very visionary CEO, and his company's at risk. And you kind of find this later, and then you kind of find that part of the reason the murder happens is because he's beginning to make sacrifices to kind of stay in the limelight and keep the company going. So I know a bunch of people that work in startups. I work in a startup, so it's woof. Good luck, bud. 50K is beast. I actually would have shot for NaNoWriMo this month, but I'm actually taking a break. So I was writing a novel, and I just finished the first draft about 3 or 4 weeks ago. But usually after a first draft, at least for me, I have to kind of like let my mind just like I can't even think. I'm like, this is a completely different story. To kind of write different things, edit different things, and kind of refresh. Yeah. Sparta. Yeah, seriously. It's exciting though. So my hat's off, um, and you have my best wishes as you write. I know that's always like every night, every weekend to get to 50K in a month, which is, good luck, my friend. That's an awesome achievement, So keep it up. That's amazing. I'm going for at least 8K words in this short story, but I'm gonna try to finish it by the end of this week, by Friday. So we'll see if that's even possible. But I think I can pull it off if you guys can pull off however many. When you developed, tell that it was hyperbole, and the company was in fact stable. What's your NaNoWriMo about, if you mind me asking? Well, I'm curious. Let me open up this YouTube here.
For many years, oppressed and conquered.
So I just looked at the video, and that's similar to Ulrich. I think the description, it's a similar to Ulrich. He's probably a little bit more like kind of like this Viking, kind of like very very strong. Let me see if I can find my initial description of him. Yeah, so this is like the description of Ulrich here, and I can just do a quick highlight for a second. So I don't know, it's kind of close. He just needs to shave his head and he could be like the Uber speaker. And I have not done NaNoWriMo before, but I have done a screenplay version of it for April. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, it's aggressive. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a fun like event, man. Like it's like you kind of get everybody in the zone, like everybody's cranking. I'll give you a follow. So if you actually are doing NaNoWriMo on Twitch, let me know and I'll try to tune in. There's 119 to the second level offensive. Oh, congrats, man. Well, if you ever need editing, let us know. That's kind of the main event in the channel. Ooh, very cool. I love Narnia, so you know, if it's anything like that, I will probably be first in line to check it out. But yeah, that's awesome that you're getting published next March. I will keep an eye out for it. And yeah, if you ever have anything you want us to edit here, that's the email. So we actually have a queue of editing. Oh well, indeed.
I'm sorry.
But yeah. So
I don't want to be
in any case, if you would ever like your stuff edited by us, feel free to send us over. We have probably some examples, like little videos on the side or whatever. I don't know if it would be on this side, but they have a few. We have a few good editing of like radio dramas, screenplays, that sort of thing.
human beings are like
Ah, that would definitely be a challenge.
we don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone.
Yeah.
It's rich.
Unfortunately, my Dutch is not very good, so. But if it's anything that involves Narnia, that's fine by me. I love Chronicles of Narnia, so you know, or anything by Lewis. Very, very clever writer. Space Trilogy is really good by him. If you've ever read those, that's phenomenal. Paralandra and Out of the Silent Planet, and then some a little harder than I intended. Yeah, cross-language editing. Foreign language OP. Foreign language OP. I elbowed a little bit harder than I intended and wasted a podium where Bill stood. Or where, oops.
Greed has poisoned men's souls. Has barricaded the world with hate. Has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We think too much and feel too little. We have developed speed. We have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical. Our cleverness hard and unkind. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. Only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. You are not machines. 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 Let us all.
Shame, shame, shame. My imperfect subjunctive. Yeah, my oh my gosh. That's the one thing is I used to like, you know, try to learn some other languages, and man, I'm usually good at speaking languages and picking up like the words and stuff, but oh my gosh, once I try to actually like write a foreign language, or read, my final boss, I'm like the initial boss editing, like the the peasant, like the little little fodder, cannon fodder editing. I wonder wonder if he'd notice anything more he said. No, I should just show it. Zooming in again is as how the cool look. So we already got rid of Sumi.
One more night wasted here. Does it feel good to see the sun? One more vision of fear. I wish I could drop it and run. I just need a way out, a blinding light. No need to fight. I must find a way to leave, a way to breathe, to breathe.
This is one of the challenge. Like, there's like one kind of issue with this like structure that's like more glaring with this particular story, and I'm debating on how I should go about it. Like, yeah, I'm a little bit worried about. Yeah, because I'm worried about saying the fundraising because it's a bit obvious that it's not legit. For the last 3 years, we've been asking ourselves.
One more night wasted here. Does it feel good to see the sun? One more vision of fear. I wish I could drop it and run. They won't understand that this world is nothing
That's a gift.
for us to play.
Later, Moocher.
That this world is nothing but a game for us to
Take care. Get some R&R. Yeah, I gotta start streaming earlier one of these days. But man, being a night owl is a real curse. It's a true story, man. Okay. Oh, thanks for the follow, Bookfish. I just noticed it. Much appreciated. Translate everything. What am I going to say? Oh, is it on repeat right now? I was like, man, this sounds really familiar. Or maybe it's just like the same song that's too close to each other. Okay. That time diff though. Well, I guess it balances out. It balances out. We got the the 24-hour around the clock editing sesh. Let's see. I've talked to.
One more night wasted here. Does it feel good to see the sun? One more vision of fear. I wish I could drop it and run. I just need a way out, a blinding light. No need to fight. I must find a way to leave, a way to breathe, to breathe.
I probably was in bars. Just be okay editor indeed. That's true. Just gotta do around the clock. Well, some of those bosses are OP, but no, I'm actually, but a few of my buddies probably actually may. We've also done some like editing on screenplays and stuff like that. I may get some other final boss editors on the stream, so you're welcome to edit something in Dutch. But I don't know if there'll be that many people. But there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good Dutch stuff out there. I actually like. I gotta read some more Dutch authors. Well, if your book gets translated into English, let me know, and I will pick it off the shelves for sure. Talk to Sequoia Life.
That this world nothing but a working for us to play. I just need a way out, a blinding light. No need to fight. I must find a way to leave, a way to breathe, to breathe.
Oh, it's all good. I think. I mean, it's never. I mean, hopefully, most editing, I think is usually like pretty positive. Like, I think it's always just like, I think, as a reader, you usually have a pretty good intuitive insight on like, usually what's working and what's not, and like, a lot of what I think about editing is it's more, it's just like finding those little optimizations or even like areas where it's like, hey, this is great, but maybe it's not part of this story, and it's usually just kind of helping whoever it is just kind of distill that story structure, which I'm sure if you're getting a book published, you probably know just how big of an impact like good story structure can have, and like not having too much kind of meandering in a narrative. At least that's kind of been my experience. Yeah, it's tough. Story structure is always like so critical. And then, once you get all the story structure fixed, then it's prose, and you got to make sure your prose makes sense. And that's one thing that was different between screenplays, which I used to do a lot more of, and novels, or short stories in this case, is that screenplays, you only really need the story structure and dialogue. And kind of a general sense of scene and how to like end the scene on a high note, stuff like that. But then once you start getting into novels, it's like, how do you not just do all that stuff? Oh, hey, Foxy Lady. But yeah, once you get into novels, it's a bit more like, you have to kind of not just think about the structure, but how you're delivering it, and like the phrasing and how your prose is working. So it's been a bit more of a challenge for me than I imagined at first. Or goomed through his grin. My hands tighten on the effective Sequoia Light Bank in the Tom B season Silicon Valley because of your hard work. So I'm actually, this is actually writing today, Foxy Lady. So I'm doing a rewrite on that startup murder mystery. So yeah, it's this is on the right side are the edits from the last time I kind of looked over this draft, and then the left side is the rewrite. I kind of gutted some bits of it, which I think was the right decision now that I'm looking back at it. But yeah. That's what I'm up to. Gotta trim is like the name of the game. Let me see. Using clap this time, listen to every word. I don't know why that one's been sometimes you get those weird words that just the focus frown is real. True story. Yeah, like thinking through all like the little minutia, and also rewriting is like, I mean, that's why I like even with this editing Twitch, like the more I've edited other people's work, whether it was like when I did it a little bit more professionally versus like now it's like every time I've done a lot of editing, it's been a huge asset. So yeah, it always kind of helps me find those issues in my own work. I actually kind of like that phrasing better. Here, pause rows like material to the Claps and cheers echoed off the bridge. Interesting, interesting. Okay, there were tears in the corners of the great sighing breath. Look at his people. These side characters in my story are gossiping about what happened in book one, and my POV is listening in, getting to accurate my own previous story and adding inaccuracies. That's awesome. That sounds like a fun. Sounds like a fun like story. I can't like. I wish it was in English. So Foxy Lady, if you're still watching, I can check here. But yeah, if you're still watching, Bookfish 35 actually did a kind of Chronicles of Narnia type story, and it's getting published early next year. But it's it's kind of like a Chronicles of Narnia type theme, from what I understood. Unfortunately, it's in Dutch, so I can't read it. But if it gets translated to English, let me know. That sounds awesome. A brisk pop crackled across the executive suite. Well, good luck. I wish you the very best. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's always just exciting to see it get out there and kind of see what people think. So, yeah, that's it's kind of like the very end, the end of a very very long road, is that publication step. So you must have worked really really hard. So hats off. That's amazing. That's a pretty amazing feat. Bill Stiffen knocked his chair over his eyes. Wait, how many gunshots? Well, we're moving a lot faster. I kind of just skipped this whole scene because I thought it was pointless. So we're actually more like right around here. But that's good. You gotta trim the fat. Oh, nice. Oh, that's okay. That's yeah, it's tough writing in. I mean, like, just the fact that, if I tried writing anything in Spanish, it would be darn near impossible. So one, commend you for writing in a foreign language. But yeah, I don't think there will be any judgment. Just, honestly, at the end of the day, people, at least in my experience, I care a lot less about sentence structure and how things sound, as opposed to, is it a good story? Are the characters well developed? So, I think if you have those things, you will probably be still in a pretty good place. So that would be, I'm all about, you gotta have that rich story and compelling structure and stuff like that. His eyes hit the staircase in the executive suite, took a few long steps in the direction before 4 more gunshots. Gunshots correct. I'll do like a cry face. Never loved him anyway. I don't care. Is that even how you do the cry face? Maybe it exists. No? Hold on. It has to be the proper emoji. Okay, so my emojis aren't gonna work. But, oh well. Yeah, gotta kill your darlings. You gotta. like, you know, especially with short stories. Like, I mean, in novels, I get the sense that sometimes you can get away with a little bit more and like throw a few more scenic elements, but in short stories, yeah, you just gotta be so efficient. I should get staircase there. Sweet, took a few answers. Joseph didn't knock his chair over as I shut this. Viewers in chat freaked out. Like, no! You're a monster! That's awesome. Well, let's have the fun. You gotta, you know, it's brutal, but it's necessary sometimes. You're a monster! Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, all this stuff up here. Everything above this to like that page is gonna be gone. So, but it's for the best. It was crap anyways. But it wasn't crap, but it was unnecessary, which is the same thing in some in short stories, at least in my opinion. He took a few long steps in that direction before. 4 more shots. Overhead. I get the sense that every darling kill is always totally worth it, even though it sucks and you're like, well, maybe I'll save an extra copy just in case I need to go back to it. But yeah, it's always necessary, but it's hard. But then whenever it's done, the story improves, and that's, you know, important or whatever. Even though you have to kill your darling to do it. One or 2 minutes left. I'm trying to convince Foxy to do a writing stream as well. Bookfish. I don't know. Foxy Lady sometimes is like, will not always be. She'll kind of leave it on in the background, so her long response times are sometimes indications of that. But yeah, she actually is a really good writer, and I'm trying to convince her to do a stream as well, or even stream on this channel. But we'll see what happens. I think she's a bit more shy about writing than some, so to each their own. Bill man standing. Bill walked. at least a short story maybe, or one of the Halloween, or you can do like a holiday version. So Bookfish a while back, me and a few of the other streamers did like a kind of a fun, or like writing streamers, did a fun little Twitch event where for Halloween we all try to do a flash fiction short story in 2 hours, and we streamed it live, and it was actually really fun. A lot of people came up with some really great stuff, and it was kind of a cool little like community moment. It was a great gig. Deal. I'll watch. I'll tune in to Final Boss editing as the Foxy Lady dominates. Oh, deal. Lead and edit, or even write. But don't be modest. I'm sure you'll do wonderful. I heard instinct kicked in at the applause seats. People ducked beneath their chairs and pressed themselves against walls. Only Ulrich and Bill remained standing. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, actually. It was a total blast. Yeah, maybe we should do it for the holidays or New Year's or something. Yeah, that would probably not be a bad deal. I think it was a blast. Only Ulrich and Bill remain standing. Only Ulrich and Bill remain standing. Hey, Sour Haggis. That's awesome. I need to get your emojis. Those are amazing. How do I get these sweet emojis? All I have are robots. Mr. Destructoid. Yeah, that's my best. Sour Haggis is also a great writer. So Bookfish. So just to give you some context, Sour Haggis. Tonight, I'm kind of just going through a short story of mine that I edited. I'm kind of doing a rewrite. So I'm taking that older draft that's on the right, peeling out a lot of the stuff, and trying to like rewrite it on the left, or it would either be reversed. Whatever doesn't have the comments is the rewritten one. But pretty much the premise of the story, it's a startup murder mystery. So a guy is trying to recruit one of his friends into his startup, and while he's recruiting his friend, who's kind of a nerdy accountant, a murder happens, and then very cool. Those are pretty sweet, I have to admit. But those are cool emojis. Jealous. A little bit more. Like honestly, this was part of a challenge I had kind of. So my probably strongest genre skill set is in action adventure. Mostly because that's like all I've watched my whole life, but I'd never done a mystery before, and then I was like, I really should try. I think it would help inform some of my other storytelling. So it's kind of like a film noir, but it's a little bit more kind of poppy and silly. But yeah, so we'll see. I'm when this draft is done, you're more than welcome to read it, and you can post edits as well. I don't really mind. So if the urge strikes, but yeah, so it's kind of poppy, lighter weight, but I don't know. I read these amazing mysteries called the Father Brown mysteries, or The Innocence of Father Brown by G.K. Chesterton. Brilliant writer. So then I was like, well, I mean, these are so good. I have to at least try writing a mystery at some point. So this was my attempt about a year ago. And then now that I was kind of taking a breather from my novel, while my brain processed a little bit, I was like, oh, I should kind of go back and polish up that short and see what happens. A good practice in editing and realizing how much fluff is in my writing sometimes. The applause seats people left me for chairs. Flung. Is that like a weird? Is it like a bad word in Dutch or something? Or is it just or is it just like kind of like a weird pronunciation? If you mind me asking. There's always like sometimes in English there's like a English word that's completely benign, but in like another language it's no bueno. Keeping his head low, my breath's just a little back. No, it doesn't mean anything in Dutch. It's the sound of it. It sounds a bit clownish. Long. Flail. That's probably the appropriate image. Like he's throwing his hand up. That is pretty awesome. Yeah, I guess there are just kind of some weird. Like it's so crazy how language does evolve sometimes. You just kind of have some funny conventions. But it's a lot of fun in any case. May have been crazy walking toward that staircase. Oh my god! Oh, those emojis, those are so sweet. Hashtag jealous. Ooh, there's some cool ones. Illuminati. I freaking love emojis. Betrayed. Where's Bob Ross? Kappa Ross. Fuck. Confirmed. That's the next book idea, right? The Illuminati Slav conspiracy. Those sick monsters. The Illuminati. His eyes switch to the staircase of the executive series. That. No stiff and obnoxious chair over his eyes twitch to the staircase. Riding gold, I tell ya. I mean, you know, the Narnia thing is great. I mean, I love the Narnia idea, but Illuminati sloths, you just gotta go call your publisher and be like, erase everything I wrote, starting from scratch here. His eyes switch these like this. Bill Hedge to a staircase. So gosh. True story. I'm just gonna just erase all this, and then I'm gonna get started on my on my true calling. That would be good. There needs to be more like silly, crazy, like satire literature like that. Or maybe I just don't. I don't ever find it, but it's so. Some of that stuff is pretty entertaining. Maybe it's just because I'm a troll at heart, where stuff like that just makes me giggle. Could be. That's probably a very reasonable explanation. Alright. Let's see, yeah. Okay. The close the distance window. Glass crashed overhead. Indeed, indeed. Trigger hummed this monotone as Bill and I crept to the top of the stairs. Rows of glass houses circling the balcony. Just make something really bad happen. Make something horrible happen. That's the goal of the midpoint. Stir that pot. What's the worst possible thing that could happen to your characters right now in that story? Like, who knows? Whatever that is, the worst will happen. That's what I always say for midpoints. There's also, I've seen some genres that do an up midpoint, so if the story's gonna end as a tragedy, usually your midpoint's like the high point, like where everyone's happy and they've found like the utopia. But then, you know, then the rest of the story is them like losing utopia because they can't fix their flaw. That's the spirit. That's the spirit. Indeed. Well, with that attitude, you'll be just fine. Then your story will progress very nicely. Spell right now. Alright, Microsoft Word, save me. There we go. Yeah, why play Sims when you can write? It's so much more fun. Yeah, it's a pretty entertaining profession, I gotta say. You know, and it's fun just to see, like, you know, your poor characters have to deal with like the most frustrating crap. Yeah, you know, but you know, they work for me, so they'll have to deal with it. I'm their boss. These poor souls. Glittering turns into. Nice. Epic Fantasy is a lot of fun. Good luck. That's awesome. Structure. That's the key. At least that's what I believe that story structure is a very important part of epic fantasy, because people want those heroes' journeys in those contexts, especially. Indeed. Well, good luck. That's exciting. Epic fantasies are a blast. Glitter chumps. Carpet outside of Jigsaw. No more chumps. Nice. Yeah, George R.R. Martin doesn't pull any punches, but oh man, Game of Thrones is an amazing. Man, the way his structure, his like story structure is absolutely insane. Like just how many, like every chapter has like a cliffhanger. Like it's just down to like a science. Like, you know, he's a very, very structure-oriented writer, and at least I can at least appreciate how well it's paid off. You're right. I was fixing 7K. Woof. That's a lot. Well, if it's any consolation, I wrote the sci-fi novel I'm working on and trying to trim down. It's probably suffering from the same problems as this. Too long. Is 140 right now. So I'm trying to cut it down to like 110. Yeah. So 110. I think for sci-fi fantasy you can get away with 120, but like 110 is kind of where I see most of those ending up. You are right, but not right. Glittering chunks of temple lattice. I've never used Excel before. That actually sounds like a really great idea. I use Excel for like spreadsheets at work, but that would actually be. I should probably. Yeah, you got to do a treatment. Those are the. That's where the rubber hits the road. Is treatments are. It's probably once you get the basics. Oops, the basic structure figured out. I always find that a treatment is a huge asset. For me, at least, as the writer trying to go about a first draft. Yeah. Good luck. The structuring for me is always. I feel that structuring is the hardest part. But you know, that's my own personal opinion. Smokes. I'm just gonna mooch on my older descriptions here. That is a good idea. Well, actually, the one RPG that actually is very... Actually, Sour Haggis was hanging out with us while we were playing this Dresden Files RPG, and the actual mechanic is extremely heavily modeled off of like story structure. So, because the guy who had a very heavy hand in its development was Jim Butcher, who wrote like the Dresden Files, which is a pretty well-known modern novel series. But like that RPG, the Dresden Files RPG, is one, a lot of fun to play, and two, kind of has a lot more story structure elements than I had seen even in others. So that's kind of a cool one to check out. But yeah, Sour Haggis can probably be a better judge of that than us even, because we were just kind of googly controlling around. Writing fantasy fiction. Ooh, I'm gonna copy this down. Shazam! You guys have the best ideas. How do you it's the community on Twitch never ceases to amaze me with how resourceful and how smart everybody is. Fighting with dragons. I pitied a little one. Ooh, I should set that up. I'll still have to probably do a line edit on this. That's true. Ooh, Fate is a lot of fun. Brandon Sanderson sure. Yeah, the Fate system's cool. It's yeah, I had never played any tabletop RPG. I played like one or two sessions of one of like D&D, but nothing really in a very considerable level of depth. But running a game is very different than I ever expected it to be, which was fun. But you definitely kind of learn the yeah, it's like you kind of don't really know what's working, but like people seem to still have a good time, so it's a lot of fun. But it's definitely a fun challenge. I was kind of surprised at kind of like what running a game really entailed. Brandon Sanderson, I'll go check that out. Oh yeah, that's so he wrote. Oh, it's the Brandon Sanderson tutorials. Gotcha. Okay. I have to force myself to do research more. Yeah, it depends on what you need to research. Well, my, when I'm actually doing editing, I always say my goal, hey, Silent Willow, how's it going? Good to see you, dude. So just to give you some context, Silent Willow this is actually a story of mine, an older one that I edited a little while back, and I'm doing a rewrite. So someone always told me, Jeff, if it's a bigger edit, if it's not just line edits, it's a little bit better to try to, like pretend like you're on a typewriter and you can't just spot edit, just like rewrite it on another page and then make that like your master doc. So that's what I'm doing on the left over here. And the premise of the story, it's a startup murder mystery. Yeah, startup murder mystery. So, yeah. So we were just talking. I wish I could. Maybe I can scroll up so you can see the comments. Actually, Sour Haggis had some awesome recommendations up here for some good stuff on fantasy fiction, and even using RPG character sheets, which is actually a really freaking good idea. So, actually, I think Jim Butcher is actually going to be making another story about one of his like RPG games based off it. So, fun stuff. The player characters destroy. True indeed. My outline, I've been much more, and maybe it was evident. I mean, you were there for most of the session actually when we were running the game. But yeah, I've been leaning more on improv. So mine's kind of the one we're running for the Dresden Files RPG, which is a really fun system. If you guys haven't tried that yet, is I've been leaning a little bit heavier on very light outlining and more improv. Sometimes it's a little bit trickier, but yeah, it also is. Yeah, it's fun. So I don't know if that was evident that we were kind of winging bigger majority of that scenario. Or at least my poor GM brain was pretty fried, but it was fun. Everyone at least was like really nice about it that I was playing with. Glittering jumps to when I peeked into the living room, we found Jacob. Nice. True. Wise office. Okay. And then when I jump to this description. I'll do a long dash. Oh, nice. Okay. Cthulhu. I have to check that out. Is that like a mechanic? I had never really, because I guess one of my friends played tabletop RPGs as when I was younger, and I didn't really he wasn't the nicest person, so it wasn't like the most fun experience. But yeah, I hadn't really realized how much fun they are. Writing from the GM at D&D can make sure I fully understand the line and outline of the story. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the most fun part, yeah. It's a blast. Actually, the Foxy lady, one of the other commenters who probably, the poor soul is probably gone to sleep by now. I don't know if she's still on. Oh, yeah, there she is. But she's actually one of the people that plays in our game. And it's pretty fun. So we streamed our game last night. So I've been trying to, it's so hard to really understand what the player's experience from the game. But we streamed our game last night, which was a lot of fun. So if you guys get bored and you watch it, feel free to give me any feedback on what I can do to be a better GM, because it's a total blast. I've actually had some of them. It's just been the most fun doing tabletop RPGs than I thought it would ever be. So totally worth the investment of however much to get the books and the dice. Other than the 2 bullet holes in the bookshelves, the first one, her computer. That's a bit too. Oh, well, we're probably going to stream again, and it'll be late night because all of us have kind of a crazy work schedule. So the very first episode, so we just started this campaign. The very first episode is the one that's in the recently whatever on the right. So, oh, dude, that's awesome, though. But you're probably a total baller for 20 years, so, always feel free. I love the feedback. But yeah, it seems like everybody who likes writing is usually a pretty darn good GM or dungeon master. So it's actually very the skill set is very transferable. So I'm sure you're probably a kick-ass writer because of it. But yeah, we'll probably be playing again next week at like 9:30 Pacific time. So if you guys want to tune in and hang out, feel free to join. You can get up to speed on what happened if you really want to kind of catch up on the story with the other episode that's in the last stream. But it's fun. I mean, I really was actually pleasantly surprised by the how fun the Dresden Files RPG has been to play. So it's a great world. I mean, those books are phenomenal. So it's just a great world to kind of fool around in and cause trouble and break stuff. What else does one do in an RPG? Rattle cages a little bit, break a few things. No harm, no foul. I'm gonna do this. Games D&D campaign live on stream. Oh, cool. Ah, very cool. I'm looking. I mean, I would love to actually watch because I mean, for me, I'm a I've never really played or GM'd especially one of these things before. So I've been watching. Como dice? Como dice? The one Geek and Sundry's one, Critical Role, to kind of like see how they're doing it, which is really funny. And those guys are absolutely really, really amazing storytellers. So yeah, it's on my channel. Oh, it's cool. So then I think I already found Rats in the Basement. That's awesome. Deal. I will also put these in my little notes here on the bottom for like stuff I need to check out. Well, I'm in. I will. If you have a history of stuff on like your viewing history, I'll check it out. That sounds like a lot of fun. Ah, very clever. Yeah, and just kind of throwing those poor souls for a loop is like the most. My poor players, they got to deal with a punk like me all the time. But I guess that's part of the fun. It's just dealing with crazy stuff that can happen. You know what? I'm just gonna keep this simple. Computer idle on Gmail. Nothing decorated dark. Did I just mention carpet now? Oh, sure. Either. Yeah, feel free to. Everybody's pretty chill, so I'm sure would be down to check it out for sure. We're big D&D fans, or at least it's just like it's a different form of storytelling, but it's so transferable. No, no, we don't get that sophisticated, I don't think, or maybe oh god, I don't know if there's something automatic, but I'm a pretty big noob as far as Twitch goes. But yeah, it was fun streaming our Dresden Files RPG game last night, just because the commenters are half the fun. They kind of an extra person to kind of tell jokes and hang out and just kind of be part of the crew. So like I was saying, that's kind of the fun part of Twitch is there's just an awesome community of people. Ooh, there we go. I will copy this into my little shapoopy. Shazam. I'm stoked. Well, I'll have to kind of catch up on the story. That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, I gotta hand it to you, Bookfish. You seem to have a very like technologically sophisticated approach to writing. You're streaming your D&D games, you're streaming your writing, and you're kind of getting published. So that's awesome that your story structure skills are spreading out. That's why I did the editing channel in the first place. I was like, the more people that are telling great stories and get good editing, in this case, the more. I mean, I love reading good stories, so the more good stories that'll be out there is kind of the goal. Exploded when I posed it covered the portions of the wood floor. Man, phrasing is tough the later it gets at night. Yeah. I have the piece, and I was probably going to edit it on the next stream. I do. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a little bit. I'm kind of slowing down. So if you guys want, I'm actually happy to edit it now because I'm kind of like in like hitting not like necessarily a wall, but just like okay, cool. Like I'm kind of cranking through this story, so I can either keep going through this story, or I can start editing yours now. But I was probably gonna do it probably tomorrow night is what I was thinking. So if you're game for that, I'll probably jump on tomorrow night around like como dice que hora? I kind of want to edit it fresh because I'm a little bit zombie mode right now. I don't know if it's evident from like this like droopy thing I have going on. Probably like around like 6 or 7 PST. That's probably what I was thinking. But yeah, I do have your piece, and I will do it. I've been, unfortunately, there had actually been a little bit of a queue for the editing aspects of Final Boss editing, so I had to play. All right. I'm down. Let's do it. I'll switch over. Alrighty. This will be fun. Should I reset the channel? Nah, it's fine. We'll leave it continuous. It'll, it's just massive episode though. Alright. Okay, so I edited Promethean 1 for Silent Willow last week, which is actually an awesome story. Let's see. Oh, yeah. No worries. I'll just take care of it. Let me just do a quick switch over here. And it's the 6-string FE, right? Just want to confirm. I'm going to open that up real quick. Yeah, it's probably good because mine like, after you stare at your own work for too long, your kind of eyes fade out anyways. But let's go ahead and get this baby set up for a quick edit here. Oh, beautiful. Oh, nice spacing, good formatting. It's a good sign. I always like to see good formatting. All right, I'm gonna do a quick switch. Pardon the technicals. 13. Shazam. There we go. And then I'll get these things up here. Oops, wrong one. I'm a pretty mean editor, so no, it's a. Usually, it's like mostly the thing that I think is because I used to do more screenwriting stuff. So the thing that oops, no, I do not want. The thing that I found was super valuable about, or one of the things that screenwriters did that I thought was extremely valuable, was a table read. So like people would read. Um, yeah, that's yeah. Well, feel free if you also have notes. I can take a look at that one too. But um, I kind of like to think of it as a table read. Reading something out loud. You can kind of hear like where the stuff hitches and doesn't. So I'm gonna take a big swig of water just because I know my throat will dry out. All right, let's begin. Yeah, I think this is nice. Shaking it up a little bit. I was kind of getting too in the zone with my own work. Okay. The final set of the night is about to begin, and I'll turn the music off because that is the one thing I cannot do is if there's music on. The final set of the night is about to begin. Backstage, he reaches for her. Her long neck and seductive curved body rest against his. The strap gently takes her weight on his shoulder. He finds comfort in the feeling. She becomes an extension of him. It is though it is through her that he has a way to reach the world. She gives him the voice that words cannot say. There's so much to be said through 6 strings and 21 frets. He speaks via his music. Through the guitar, he makes her sing for all who will listen. Songs of pain and the joys of life. How life is so delicate and sacred. How we can be pushed to the point of breaking and stand resolute. Stronger than the godlike forces that seek to profane our existence. He wanted to say these things, but words get confused, misquoted, misinterpreted. His 6 strings say it all. They speak a language that breaks through barriers and vibrate the chords of one's being. The pickups hum beneath the 6 strings. The main lead is plugged in. He feels the energy tingle through her. She's more than Maplewood body, more than the electrical current passing through the wiring and pickups. She comes alive within his hands. Life, like a lover, she responds to touch with a sound, a quiver, a waver. Waver? Waver? That's like, I would, that wording's kind of, I don't know if that's curlier, whatever. Anyways, his touch can make her laugh or make her cry, and she often does the same for him with return. It's true. It's true. Well, so that's a great idea. Table reads are amazing. So I think this first paragraph is very strong, very evocative, and I like the comparison. Um, I like the. Is there a way? So I think one of the things I would consider, because you're doing a great job, and this kind of is one of the things I see happen a lot in my writing, is you're doing a great job kind of evoking this image of like this kind of the woman plus the guitar and kind of them being the same thing, but then I think, um, you know, you probably like trust your imagery because I think a few times, and we can look back. Is there a way to? Let me see. Speaking language. He feels. She responds, comes alive. Yeah. So it's a bit, and it depends on what kind of story you're telling. I always get a little bit like nervous with, a little like a more metaphoric opening is a tougher start. It's a choice, like, it's a choice you'll just have to make as a writer. I think you can get away with it, because it's kind of a cool image. Um, but yeah, it's just a little bit. You're just gonna have a little bit more work to do. But I'll shut up and keep reading. His mind wanders to the place where he shelters from the world. The small insular child he once was still remains confined yet comfortable. He keeps vigilante. Keeps vigilant. Vigilante. Word choice. To stay hidden away, fearful from a world that has grown in complexity and demands. Soon the child will come out to play. He feels a stirring, the same stirrings he felt when discovering music in his youth. He would listen to the radio, playing top 40 countdowns. It was called rock and roll. For hours he would listen to it, his ears unearthing new and exciting sounds. He discovered the blues from his father's older record connection. The names Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Robert Clay, the Rolling Stones and Beatles, and the heroes of his father's youth, Eric Clapton, Hendrix, and Led Zeppelin. The echoes of the Delta blues reverberated through the music hall that held him entranced. Okay, really interesting. So I think the backstory. Oopsie, didn't mean to do that. I should turn on track changes as well. The backstory is good, but I kind of talk and think that doesn't have a clear connection. So this is one thing that, I'm actually kind of curious to hear what the commenters think, but I usually say, and usually what I've found is that you really want to be really minimal and careful with backstory unless it's very directly informing the character's current choice and plot. Because, this character, this musician, he's going to go through some sort of journey, but that backstory informs that journey, but you usually kind of want to kick off his current story first, kind of get that story really rolling, and then, once we have some conflict, once we have some uncertainty, we don't know what the outcome is going to be, that's when you can start bringing the backstory, because you already have my attention. I want to figure out how it's resolved, and then you can start informing that tension even more with backstory. But establishing the backstory first before we're really getting a hook into the existing one is a little bit of just a little bit of a risk. Establish current plot. Then go back, and yeah, feel free to chime in as well from the commenter section if you guys feel that that's a appropriate assessment, or if you guys have other opinions. I will not complain. Okay, cool. So right now we have this musician, kind of this great little metaphor of him and his guitar, and then we're jumping into the backstory. So really well written, but you'll probably want to figure out where that kind of, at least the story problem is, but we'll see. It may come soon. He remembered back to his first six-string, a second-hand acoustic. He wanted to replicate the sounds he heard. His dreams took him beyond his frustrations and limitations, and he was rewarded with fingertip calluses and the hallmark of a good guitarist. He remembered with fondness, so good detailing. That's always important. Those types of minutia details can really bring this world to life. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that in a second. He remembered with fondness his uneven frown and worn nut. The slightest twist in the neck was beyond repair and eventually impossible. It was taken away, replaced with a Fender Stratocaster when he knuckled down and achieved the grades that were required of him. So this reminiscing is, this is a lot of good exposition, and it's really well written, but ensure. So right now, just think about kind of the frame scene for this exposition. So you're kind of going through his backstory. So right now, it's not really in a frame. There's not him sitting thinking. It's more just kind of this play-by-play. So I kind of it's a lot of good exposition. Should it be in an overall scene? Is he still in the first scene? About to go on stage? Or is this a different kind of point? Yeah. Feel free to throw in. Oops, I accidentally clicked out of the comments. The comma splice is intentional. Oops. No worries. So yeah, I was actually super frenetic. I was actually writing something a little bit earlier, but this is actually one of our awesome writers, Sour Haggis. Um, and yeah, so we're taking a look at his stuff, and welcome to the channel. And feel free to. I didn't see the comma splice. I'm. I kind of am always like, whenever I do a first edit, I always kind of go a little bit faster and lean towards story structure. But if you catch a little thing like a comma or a miswording, let me know, because I think the more you can kind of cover, the better. So YOLO swag. He needed a guitar. The guitar that didn't call him weirdo. Period. I would cross that out, or laugh at him when he struggled to speak aloud. So that's like a great example of like one of those little minor edits if you can catch him. When he struggled to speak aloud, it didn't beat him up after school. The guitar became a companion. It learned to talk through his callous fingertips and the motion of the plectrum against the string. So yeah, be careful. Like, so I know probably most people who are better at guitar than me would have a better. Oh, nice. Welcome. Well, I will. I'm. That's awesome to hear. Editors Unite, freelance copy editor and writer that making more editing work. Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, I used to do a lot of editing back in the day, and I do actually some now because I'm doing more marketing in the my real job. But yeah, I always love editing. And I love good stories, and so I was like, hey, if you guys are great writers, which everybody, like there's a ton of amazing writers on Twitch. I was like, hey, send in your stories. I'll edit them. Kind of talk through my thought process and what I think works in certain stories and what sometimes is more dissonant. And the more better, stronger stories out there, the more fun for me because I love amazing stories. So it's kind of the name of the game for my nerdiness. So yeah, so what we're seeing here is a lot of backstory, and one thing that at least especially in more, and seems like it's going to be a more character driven piece, so you may get away with this, but one thing that you usually measure backstory against is whether one, it informs the plot, like what choices the character is making, what's happening in the present, or it informs the character. So I kind of have this really great sense of his love of music, but each successive piece of backstory has to add to that. So I think like I kind of have this really good sense of his love of music by this point, but then you want to say, hey, like in this journey to become like a master of the guitar, um, what like what does each of those successive stages that we're bringing in add? Like, does he have problems? Like those types of things. Um, so yeah, and that's just, I mean, dude, like honestly, I struggle with this a lot in my writing as well. Um, just because you know you have like this, like I mean, and I like especially writing sci-fi, you kind of have you have a lot of backstory overhead, where you have a lot of information that you need to get across, and weaving that in is a consistent challenge. And then you also have to weave in character backstory, so you kind of certain genres you have to have a lot tighter of a razor and where you measure your backstory. Um, but you kind of want to think like, hey, the first section was this really nice metaphoric opening, but I didn't really see like a problem or some sort of character trait, or so I'm kind of still waiting for that hook to really pull me in. So those are kind of at least my initial impressions, but it's really beautiful writing. Like your prose is phenomenal, um, but I would almost encourage you to say you could probably get away like just relying on your really great prose writing talents, but I would almost encourage you just to keep pushing that. Listen, it doesn't do, but the examples should be more specific than same with the character. I was saying what the guitar doesn't do, but the example should be more specific and say more about the character rather than exclude him from the group, which is really general. Actually, give him strength. Yeah, that's a really. I'm Child's free to explore, give a voice. He sang through the delicate and precise placement of the finger. As he grew older, life became more complex, and the guitar and his ability grew with him. The pain and expression became a salve, not only for himself, but those who listened. The guitar created a connection. So I think this is an important piece, but I'd love to see this shown in a context. And that's like one of the challenges, because like a reader's conception of like what's like 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 me. Oh, thank you guys for the follows, Brimstone and Lollipops and Cultured Fool. But you are quite cultured, even though you are a fool. But no, so silliness aside, like the guitar, through the guitar, he learned to tell his tales. Like that's a really beautiful statement, and that's a very image-heavy statement. But I kind of want to visualize that. Like that's almost a conclusion. Like a series of that's kind of telling me where he got. Like I would almost want to see a scene that makes me come to that conclusion. Um, like he like breaks up with his girlfriend and he plays a guitar, and that can even be done in kind of this montage type short scenes, where you're like, you know, where you're almost showing his growth with the guitar in these very big little snippets, as opposed to saying, hey, like he learned to tell his tales through the guitar. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, feel free to ask for clarification. Um, yeah, it kills me. It kills me. Because I do the same thing. But like, how can a scene be crafted to let me, the reader, come to this on my own? And like, honestly, you guys saw me writing my own draft like a few minutes ago. So I mean, and these problems were, or these challenges were there as well. And like, it's not something that I don't think is like bad or wrong. It's just more like, oh hey, like you have this great story you're telling. How do you continue to fine tune it to make it like, because like whenever, like it's sort of like when you play a video game and you beat a level, like you kind of have that insight and you're like, yes, win, and like you want to play another level because you just won and you figured it out. It's the same type of experience, I think, for the reader, when you see this image and then you have this insight about a character, and it's like you won the level and you're like, oh yeah, like he's told his whole life through the guitar. And then when you have those scenes and the reader comes to that conclusion on his own, like through what you've kind of like staged, I always get the sense that it has a little bit more poignancy for me, at least. Tales of boy meets girl only to lose her because he couldn't see the truth of life out of a suitcase, and the loneliness being known as a name and not a person. His music also told joys of discovering love, meeting real people, and sharing the stories of their struggle. He learned to listen more to those around him, and by doing so broaden his music. That's kind of another showy type of thing where it's like, well, like how? Like what happened when he learned to listen more? I'm gonna delete it. Sentence to the guitar. He learned to tell his tales. It's all good. I put in my best effort. Yeah, it's it's okay. It's gonna delete that. TBH. It's more about telling the right things. Yeah, I think that's a really good insight, Super Frenetic, because I think it really is. Actually, my cousin, who is a really phenomenal writer, she was telling me, she's like, detailing is all about which detail, and that's like critical. Yeah, it is the whole trust your reader thing. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, I'm about to do an edit on the first Bookfish. I'm about to do the edit on the first draft of my novel. I can actually, it's here, and I've been like dreading it because I've been taking this break. So this is the first draft of my sci-fi novel, all printed out. But trust me, and I'll try to stream as much of the editing as I can, just because it's fun and it's kind of a bit of a humbling experience for me to find all these challenges and opportunities for improvement in my own work. But it's that's the joy of editing, is like you kind of learn like what those kind of issue, or what those like issues kind of look like in fiction, and then you can kind of recognize it in your own, and that type of thing. So before I get too ADD sidetracked, I will continue. He paces back and forth amongst the amplifiers, and amongst is kind of a funny word choice. That's just me. Uh, that personal preference, but that's just like that was a bit of a jarring word choice. Amplifiers and speakers and speaker stacks. He's almost ready. There's always there are always the nerves back here in the darkness where he can't be seen. He feels the anticipation of the crowd as they become more subdued. Um, I this is another one of those ones where I would almost think about the show don't tell moment where it's like the sound of the crowd dies down. Um, an announcer talks. Like people start shushing each other. Like, what does that anticipation feel like? Um, I'm trying to. It's 140K sci-fi novel hype. Yeah, it's 140K. When I'm trying in the next edit, Silent Willow, to cut it down to 110. So I want to reduce the size by 30% to 20% if possible. Yeah, it's so fun. Like storytelling is such like it's such an intriguing concept because it's just like human communication, right? Like it's like you it's I mean, at least you always get that sense that it's very difficult to really relate and communicate your feeling and the emotion to someone else in like in the same way. And that's like the fun thing about storytelling is like how do you solve that question? Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Just after prom, speeding off the white limo while he's sat on the curb trying to find a ride. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm trying to find that prom piece so I can. Uh, or maybe that's actually an addition. I'll put that in. I'll just put that note in here. Shweep. Just so you have, because I always like to save the comments because a lot of good insights. Like the it really makes a big difference. So okay, back and forth among the audience. Stage lights dim further, and with deepening darkness, the rest of the band. Stage lights dim further, and with the deepening darkness, comma, the rest of the band to take position. No, the rest of the band to take position. Took their positions. And with the deepening darkness, comma, the rest of the band took their positions. Lasers reached out, and he paces. Okay, it's in present. For some reason, I thought it was in past. And the rest of the band takes their positions. Lasers reach out across the crowd, and lights move. The band shares a moment of silence. The lights provide a metronome to the beat that they are keeping between them. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Sorry. Sweep. I'll put it up here. I trust the. There we go. Like I'm sure that they'll figure out the exact location. I'm kind of the more if I jump out of my stream of consciousness, I get on the struggle bus, and there's some tense inconsistencies. Yeah, I mean for me the thing that I think is probably the most kind of like probably the thing that will inflect the story a lot is giving some sort of unanswered question. So or some sort of conflict that's unresolved. And it depends. Like this could just be a straight up character piece where you're drawing this image of a person, and that's okay. And those do work. But I think one of the things that I find even helps inform character pieces is setting up a situation where someone's gonna have to make a choice, where there's some sort of like unresolved thing, like maybe he's loved his guitar so much he's never actually gotten out and seen the world, or like he's so passionate about his guitar he's never branched out, whatever that may be. I would kind of bring that into relief, and there's a few different story structures that do that. So let's say your hero is kind of imperfect. Then you usually have something that kind of challenges that flaw, and maybe it comes up, and I'm just kind of jumping the gun. Um, but you kind of have something challenge that flaw, and you see him kind of learn through that. The other story structure that this may be is if he's like an ideal character, he's already got it all figured out. It's called a traveling angel story, and John Truby has like a really good kind of lecture series on these types of stories, where the town or like the group of people around this like character that is living out the ideal life, this good character changes the flawed people around him. So those are kind of two ways that character dramas can be kind of worked out with like a bit more conflict. But we'll keep going, and I'll keep my thoughts to myself for a little bit. Awesome. And everyone's partying tonight on the editing. Everyone's like, Jeff, we don't want to see the writing part. We want to see the editing part. In this moment he lives for, the previous sets are a warm up. It's this moment he played to the crowd. Shifted tenses. His fingers dance. Ooh, shame. That's okay. It's my marketing. I try to like turn off my marketing because I'm like I do a lot of like blog editing, email editing. So like you kind of become a grammar Nazi in those contexts. So I try to look for more of the overall issues or really great strengths, because like sometimes you can just buff up one of your strengths a lot, and then it makes the story work really well. He was at one with the pace set by the drums, bass, keyboards, melody. Worked as a counterbalance to the guitar. Vocal elements blended it all together. So you do a really good job when you're in the scene. You have some pretty strong scene elements. Good audio. Keep building this. So you did a really great job with, the touch description in the initial part where you're setting up this metaphor of his guitar being like a woman. So use those other senses to like build kind of your scenes. So like when you're in the scene, it is a pretty visual, visceral experience, which is awesome. So keep reinforcing that. Like I think that's a really good strength you have is in your descriptive ability. So feel free. I would encourage you, like if you're going through future drafts, like continue to reinforce that. Familiar feelings, subtle. Familiar feelings, subtle and ethereal. Oh, comma, subtle and ethereal, comma. I would clarify, and this is almost like a show don't tell piece, where, so one of my writing coaches was always like, Jeff, never say beautiful, because what's beautiful to someone maybe, or when you tell someone beautiful, three people will think of three different things. One maybe will think of a pretty girl, one maybe will think of a mountain, and one maybe will think of a ski slope, whatever. And your communication may have been one of those things, but you want to get to the concrete, like what's happening, because that's much less up for debate, right? Like, so if you're saying, hey, the sun shone on the ski slope, the freshly groomed run glittered, as the light of like the early morning fell on it. Obviously bad description, but that's the point. Like people can get to beautiful from there, but it's much harder to get from the abstract down to the concrete. I'll start with a bit more concrete scene description. Avoid stuff like subtle and, if I could spell, the editor who can't spell. Chapter 1. These abstract terms could mean a lot of different things to different people. Cool. Forgive me if I don't check the comments for a few seconds, because sometimes I'm like very okay. Tense. Yeah, I was writing exercise. I worked on for a bit. Oh yeah, no worries. Need to reinforce this early disconnection. I'm mid 40s. Nice. Well, I'm glad it helped. Soaks in knowledge. Got back to it when about 5 years ago. Well, keep up the writing. I think you have really, really good control of prose, which is hard to do. So you do have Sour Haggis a really good strength in controlling your prose. Obviously tenses and stuff. Be that as it may, that can always get fixed. I think you have a very, very good control of language and prose, which is awesome. The things that I would kind of think about is like what kind of how you arrange the chess pieces a little bit and say, okay, what do you want to bring to the front? What do you want to kind of bring to the back? And how are you communicating these scene and character elements in a way that's like really snappy? Um, yeah. So and yeah, we'll keep talking through it as we go along. I won't slow down too much. So got back into it 5 years ago. Literature and speculative. Yeah, speculative fiction. Yeah, I love speculative. I love speculative fiction. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, um, come forth in grown maturity, dreams where they could be and where they are, and have become one. And your energy radiates out from him. His consciousness feels like it was both observer and participant. A higher power surrounds and infuses him, and he is in the ever present. Actually, need to make a note. Um. Okay. A child is reminding him as he grows with him. Mm, yeah. Key performance and final song. Stage lights and lasers shining on the stage. He can see no one but he feels them. They project their hopes, their dreams, and he absorbs it all as the applause from his entry on stage stills. The drumsticks counted in 1, 2, 3, and 4. The drum and bass and keyboards kick in with an explosion of sound. The tone is set. It is with the small wrist movements that the plectrum gently sets his strings to motion. A gentle cry. The jargon is jargon garçon is a bit tough to grok for. I'm a noob though, so maybe I'm just a guitar noob. Uh, That's awesome. You can do it. You can do it. The creative writing stuff is great just because it gives. Um, Dystopian fiction. Yeah, love it, love it. You guys are awesome. Well, super frenetic. If you would like, feel free to send any and all dystopian fiction. I'd be happy to edit it and read it live on the stream if you prefer. And I think Bookfish, you can do it. So like you sound like you have a pretty good grasp on fiction, and any creative writing class would be fortunate to have you as either one of the students or professors, because it sounds like if you're already publishing some stuff, you're probably doing all right. Feeds in the writing, that completely separate. Feeds in the comma splices, yeah. Yeah, that's a good note. Yeah, these are kind of these. Yeah, here are your commas. This is a few heavy comma bits here. Oops. It is with a small wrist movement that the plectrum gently. A newborn sound sings out to the concert hall. A slight bend puts an inflection on the note. It's soon joined with other strings. Fingertips, the hammer on the strings against the fret, and the fingerboard to give it a leap in tone. And with a pull, and with the pull of a string, a sense of loss. A gentle wiggle adds vibrato. Each bend and vibrato. I'm trying to think because I think this is like a very interesting like scenic picture of music, but it seems like the piece as a whole, has done a great job of establishing kind of this sense of like this person and his relation to music, but I kind of want to see that like a movement beyond that initial establishment. So I think you did a great job of kind of saying, okay, look, this is how this person sees music. This is how he feels about music. But I kind of want to see that come into conflict and like him have to either prove his perception of music or something. So, I I mean, because the reader wants to be with the character in this evolution of growth. So whether this person's perception of music changes during the scene, or what have you, that's kind of what your reader is kind of leaning forward towards. Plectrum is a pick. Oh, sweet. I should have just googled it. Super fanatic and final boss. Writing based genre. Writing based series are hard because they have to get people playing firework. Yeah, yeah, but it's your work that, yeah, indeed. Yeah, I guess like I love the writing community in Twitch. Has actually been surprisingly awesome. So, props to you guys. You guys are amazing people and very very talented. So like, don't get me wrong. Any critique is always just something that, it's kind of like you get gold ore or whatever, and you kind of take out some of the dross and you kind of leave the good stuff. But the good stuff is definitely there in everything that I've read from people who've submitted it on Twitch. Oops, I didn't mean to line that. Okay, feels the warmth of the spotlight, and the first solo breaks, and his soul weaves through the effects, pedals, and amplifiers. The crowd gives him full attention, fills them in each sting, each note. His fingertips feel the gauge of each string by their vibration. Okay, applying pressure on the back of his neck only when needed on the right amount. She knows the rhythm. One thing that's kind of odd is since that first intro, the metaphor of the guitar and the girl has kind of dropped off. Um, and that's like one of those things when you kind of talk about backstory, like unless that metaphor is influencing this scene or this backstory is influencing the present, you kind of want to that should at least make you question like, hey, um, what is it really putting in to what the character is going through now? And so that may be like a bit intense, but something worth thinking about. The metaphor. And you know what they say about darlings. I'm just kidding. Um, bring the elements of connection and disconnection together more. Awesome. Well, feel free, like, if I'm kind of missing some of the elements, or, maybe I'm, obviously it's, 1 a.m. my time, so if my poor adult brain is not all, all the way grokking something, feel free, and I can kind of take an extra careful look into some of these things. Song delves into depths of sorrow. The sound of enlightenment. Lyrics emerge from his heart, is given to the lyrics as he lived and experienced. The crowd add their voices to the lives of the music. It is the lead break, and the real journey begins. The tale, now told with 6 strings and 21 frets, tells of struggle, of lost hope, and pain and loneliness. How? This would be a show, maybe in audience response. This is bad examples. Tears and eyes, smiles, whatever. Um, Give me a concrete visual of these abstract moments happening. I can, I can edit content and grammar. I usually lean more towards story structure because I usually feel that story structure is usually the first line of defense, and content and grammar is like, hey, if you got a story that just rocks just rocks, the characters are really popping, like those types of things, most people, will usually kind of look the other way in common and grammar, and common and grammar is pretty attainable as far as like, being able to kind of go through and resolve some of those issues. So yeah, I kind of start with story structure, but I yeah, if you have something you say, hey, I really want this edited, and I want a more focused on grammar stuff like that, let me know. More than happy to take a look at the more granular aspects. But yeah, but I usually think when I'm first looking at a story, it's all about structure. How are you bringing up the character's problem? How are you bringing up the core conflict? Those types of things are really, really can make a pretty big difference as far as like what the outcome of the story is, or like how the work comes out at the end. At the end, a rising crescendo in A minor leaps into an augmented B. It slides to a major G. The key changes and descends into a dance of E minor pentatonic scales. His fingers dance on the fretboard like a ballerina in Swan Lake. The swirls of sound create a whirlpool of emotion, a song of profound loss and the realization of self. It tells of his struggles, the struggles we all face as human beings, to love and be loved. How in heartbreak we lose that sense of identity. OSE, yeah. The string rings out of the sound. The strings ring out of the sound that brings. It's kind of funny wording. I would just reword. Ring out the sound that brings out all the an innate truth that cannot be told in words. It is transmitted through the pickups and amplifiers. It is time. The darkest E minor scales to be lifted. He brings his hand up the neck of the guitar a few octaves higher, first to show that there was hope, then down slightly to the swirl of raw emotion. He could feel them all riding on each and every note, reaching for the hope and the light. He reached with them. He guides them like a shepherd with his flock. He knows now how to lift them to the light, to feel the elation, to break free for a moment, to see the other side and let them carry that vision with them as he gently places them back on terra firma. It's a bit of a long sentence. Just be careful. I would almost consider I'm very bit more. And this is more. I just was talking about how I try to avoid too many granular notes. But yeah. So this is kind of one of those examples where so you have this really great pacing in the music, but I would almost try to mirror your prose and your sentence structure with that. So like you kind of have these big old chunks, like this is a pretty big sentence, this is a pretty big sentence, and usually as you're getting to the climax of the story, which it looks like we're getting pretty darn close. Um, yeah. Yeah, usually the climax of the story, that sentence length really influences the pace and tone of the story. So that increase of pace and that kind of, even, ramping up the octaves as it were, right? Like that kind of happens on the sentence level a little bit. So something to kind of keep in mind is that, as you're, building up for this big, kind of climax, these bigger sentences will definitely kind of be at odds. And this one kind of seems like a run on a little bit. I didn't look hard enough to really tell, but yeah. These kind of bigger sentences that take a little bit more mental processing to kind of put together all the pieces will be a little bit at odds with that your goal of ramping up for the climax of the story. His eyes blind from the stage. His eyes, comma, blind from the stage lights, comma. He can hear their applause. Whoa. this a bit of a run on. Run on. Be wary of one run-ons. He could feel, excuse me, the vibrations of emotion they gave him. Beware the hanging they. And this is actually something that they tell us in marketing a lot more, because if you have like a they that doesn't have a really super clear reference, um, most of the time it won't unhinge your story, but it'll make your reader like stop. Um, it'll make your reader stop and kind of like rethink and say, okay, you know, who was this again? And then that stop and kind of refresh it, that will really influence your pace. So like you don't want your reader to have any hiccups through the read. You want that to be a pretty like you want them just to plow through. So any like even weird verb or words that don't specifically reference, yeah. Paragraphing is the same. Like don't fear the one line paragraph. Um, Unclear antecedent, yeah. And that's a slap on the wrist for grammar. But one of the things it does to your overall story is your reader takes a step back to process that, and then you kind of lose that flow. And we're right here, kind of in like the crux of your story. And whenever you have those like kind of like hit like speed bumps in the flow, like your reader, it's like a car. Your reader has to slow down to kind of accommodate for that, and then you kind of lost this momentum you've been working really hard to build. Beware the hanging day. Yeah. Cool. Surrounds him and listens to his feet. He braces for it, holding onto the microphone. Give him. It surrounds him and listens. He lives for the crowds, to be a conductor for a symphony of souls, all in harmony to one another. His conductor's baton replaced with a Fender Stratocaster. Really, like, I think. I mean, then you're a phenomenal writer, and you're really good at expressing these abstract, concepts. But I would kind of, when you do a future draft of this, I would really encourage you to try to take, instead of starting from the abstract and going down, try to get to these abstract concepts from the concrete scene elements, and try to throw in some very clear conflict, whether it's the character with himself, or and I know you kind of mentioned in the comments a little bit. You said you're like, oh hey, I am kind of he's in the zone now. Yeah, but beware. I like the benefit, but try start from the concrete scene elements and work that reader. And I can actually, and I can see why, this is something that's kind of a thematic thing in this story. Like, and when I go and kind of talk through the overall notes, this is probably one of the things I talk about. And the problem is you're an amazing writer at those things. So, like, you're kind of like, that's like, you're very good at like kind of encapsulating these like really cool concepts, in prose. But, that's one of the things that you'll find is that your storytelling will even hit harder if you kind of take that extra leap into like just drawing an amazing scene with conflict, stuff like that. Sorry, I've been zoning out. In the zone. Shake. Sponsorships. I gotta wear like some sort of advertisement, I guess. To give them his voice with 6 strings of nickel and copper. He lives not just for elation it gives him. He also lives to reach and touch the multitudes with his message of love, pain, and the miracle of music. Once again, he was humbled by the crowd. Their applause dins in his ear, and he's back descending from the high. He bows to the audience, grateful for the opportunity to feel at one with them. For it is the only way. So this is actually an interesting point. So the way you told the story, and I, as the reader, never felt uncertainty. Say hi to my followers. Oh, cool. I'm actually such a Twitch noob. I did not know what hosting meant, but I was like, oh, cool, like hosting. Um, but get to your own writing, Bookfish. Good luck. I know you'll do great because it sounds like you're an awesome writer just from like all the notes you've given. So good luck. Good luck with the creative writing classes as well, and get to writing. Tisk tisk, wrist slap, all that. But thanks for hanging out so long and hosting. I am still not, I'll have to Google what this really means. I'm such a Twitch noob, but hey, you try. Um, but anywho, so on this particular note, one thing that you really want to think about is I, as the reader, I keep reading for the resolution of something that's not clear. Um, and some aspects less, like if you're reading philosophy or something like that, which this does kind of touch on a lot of those notes. So, and you have really good writing style, or just like very good like sense of words. Um, but the more plot oriented writing, um, that sense of uncertainty can pay dividends. So if I, the reader, am not sure what's going to happen, I'm going to keep reading so I can darn well find out. So the fact that I was pretty darn certain that he was going to rock the show, that he was going to express himself, because he had been doing that from the beginning, and I never saw a moment where that was called into question. The story kind of missed that sense of uncertainty, so I kind of knew he was going to just like perform well and it was going to be okay. Um, but I would consider bring in a moment earlier where this is called into question. It won't go so well. If that note makes sense, I'll be lurking. Cool. So exalted. Okay. For him, is the only way he can express a sense of what it is to be human through a piece of maple and six middle strings. Very like great phrasing, great kind of encapsulation of the art and the need for human community. That's what I'm saying. Like you're really good at getting bringing these concepts into this world, but I think if you use some of these tools, you'll find that it's even better. So like really. So I mean, I think yeah, I think this is a great concept and push, and I think I like it. Exalted, he bows and raises his hand. So exalted, like that type of wording is this. Um, yeah. He bows and raises a weary hand. Oopsie daisy. The surge of energy, that inner aspect of himself, has left. A shy, unassuming man, almost apologetic, leans to the microphone and says, "Thank you and good night." I like the contrast. Great. So I mean, overall, great job. Um, exhausted. Well, it was. I hope this wasn't too, trying of an experience. Um, so yeah, overall, great job. I mean, I think you have a very clear sense of the theme you're trying to get across. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll turn off track changes here. kind of the other big pieces. Yeah, poor Sarah Haggis. It's always tough getting the getting your work edited. So I commend your patience and strength, and feel free to be like, Jeff, that was a nice thing to say or not. Like, I try to be, I think you have a really great piece of material here. So don't let any of the feedbacks detract from that, because I think it's absolutely a fact. This is really well done. So good. You have a very clear sense of theme, what you're trying to say about art and this character. I think your writing style is engaging and grand sense of metaphor. I really like that. Like your style is very like grandiose and stuff. Man, I'm like not managing my shelf room very well right now. Anyways, improve. I'll do the LA girl style. Like, and the permanent interrogative. So yeah. So I think the things that were kind of the thematic was backstory and metaphor. Should be secondary to the current scene and the current conflict slash source of uncertainty. Make me believe that he could fail in his performance. If I could spell. Well, I'm glad it helps. That's I mean, you have an awesome piece of work here. So like I always like want to commend like going out and writing your guts out is an extremely hard thing to do, and my hats off. Because that's just a badass thing to do, and it's a lot of hard work, and like for real, that's amazing. And yeah, like that's the joy of that process is still like fine tuning and perfecting and those types of things. Maybe leaving this more. Is there a source of conflict, even just eternal, that we can highlight? And uncertainty. Um, you know, in scenes, use concrete details to let the reader come to the abstract. And that's like, that's man, it's really like I think it's really hard. It's hard for me in my writing is like using those details and the scene elements and the things and the dialogue people are saying that draw them in, that draw the reader into those abstract concepts. Because I think this is always that challenge for a writer who is very passionate about theme, and like I kind of feel the same way about this because whenever I write, like I usually start with a theme or like an idea I want to express, and then work from there down to like the characters. Some writers do the reverse. They'll have a plot or a cool story, and then they'll kind of figure out the theme later. But I'm assuming that you're probably the former, because this is a very theme heavy work. But I think you maybe still a few iterations. You still have a few opportunities to iterate towards more character, more concrete. But because you have that theme background, I like trust your reader that the theme will come across, because all those details you have in are very specific, very well drawn out. But bring that theme back just a little bit and bring us into that concrete scene. Um, you know, in scenes, come use concrete details. I'll let the reader come to actual theme you come up with. Oh yeah, very. Of the piece, make the words that's like a bad example, but kind of use that. I'm a thema. Yeah, it's it's the best way to be, I think, because I'm that way. But yeah, I mean, I think when you approach from that, you just have to be hyper aware that like that's like usually what, at least for me, like I usually hold on to it really tight and I don't want to trust my reader to figure it out. So I'm gonna edit this beast when at some point, probably through Final Boss editing, and you'll probably see me having a bunch of lines where I'm stating my theme and I'm stating my theme and I'm stating my theme, and it's good because it means I know my theme. But then it's also kind of on me as the writer to put the candy coating around it and to kind of hide it a little bit more under the surface um, through the characters and conflict and those types of elements. Um, yeah. Well, great job. I am absolutely pooped. It is well past poor Jeffrey's bedtime. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. I'm glad we got to do the edit live together. I hope it wasn't too painful of a process. There's something, at least for me, that's always like challenging about, having to kind of like bite your lip and have someone edit your work. But I think I think it's helped me when people have done this for me in the past, and hopefully it helps you guys too because I love great stories, and this is definitely a really solid one. So thank you guys for tuning in. It was awesome just hanging out with everybody and having great conversations about writing and crafts and storytelling, which is what it's all about. So yeah, well, thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. I'm gonna go to bed, but hopefully we'll see you all soon. Feel free to follow on the bottom, and next time I come on, it'll be great to hang out and catch up. And yeah, we'll probably be final boss editing sometime again soon. Take care, you all. Have a great evening, and